Orlin Kavaris had always known he wasn't what humans considered attractive. His asymmetrical features, left eye slightly higher than the right, a nose that had been broken 3 times in childhood fights, and scarring across his right cheek from a chemical burn, had earned him countless cruel nicknames throughout his 32 years of life. Patchwork, they called him on good days. Monster on bad ones. The mirror in his quarters aboard the interstellar research vessel Horizon showed the same face he'd always known. Orlin ran calloused fingers along the ridged tissue of his scars, a habit when deep in thought. As the ship's xenobiologist, he wasn't chosen for his looks but for his brilliant mind, the one part of himself he'd never doubted. Atmospheric entry protocols initiated. All personnel secure for landing on Lumina Prime, announced Commander Vela's voice through the ship's communication system. Orlin secured his research equipment and strapped himself into the acceleration couch. The Horizon shuddered as it pierced the atmosphere of humanity's newest discovery, a planet with signs of advanced civilization. First contact team. Report to briefing room immediately following landing. Commander Vela's voice came again. Orlin's stomach clenched. Despite being the ship's lead xenobiologist, he wasn't expecting to be part of the first contact team. Those roles typically went to the diplomat types, beautiful people with perfect smiles and smooth words. People like communications officer Lyra Neves, whose golden skin and symmetrical features drew admiring glances wherever she went. When he arrived at the briefing room, Commander Vela stood before a holographic display of Lumina Prime's surface scans. Kavaris, glad you're here. You're joining the first contact team. Orlin blinked in surprise. Ma'am? Our scans indicate the Luminans have a highly developed biological understanding. Your expertise will be crucial. Her eyes held no pity, just professional respect. It was why Orlin had always appreciated working under her command. Lyra Neves sat nearby, impeccably groomed as always. She shot him a professional nod, but he noted the slight grimace she couldn't quite hide. He was used to it. The Luminans have agreed to meet our delegation at their Central Council building, Commander Vela continued. We'll be the first humans they've ever encountered. Remember your training. Cultural sensitivity is paramount. The descent to the planet's surface was smooth. Orlin watched through the shuttle viewport as the alien landscape came into view. Crystalline spires that caught the light of twin suns, creating prismatic displays across sweeping plains of what appeared to be luminescent vegetation. As the first contact team stepped out onto Lumina Prime, Orlin felt the familiar weight of self-consciousness. He would be among the first faces these aliens would associate with humanity. What an impression he would make. The Luminans awaited them at the base of a towering crystal structure. They were tall, willowy beings with translucent skin that pulsed with internal light. Their bodies seemed to shimmer with colors that shifted like oil on water. They had no discernible facial features besides large, multifaceted eyes that refracted light into countless spectrums. Lyra stepped forward, her diplomatic training evident in her graceful movements. On behalf of Earth and the United Stellar Alliance, we extend greetings, and the lead Luminan interrupted with a melodic series of chimes that the translator converted to words. The scarred one must speak. We will hear only the scarred one. Every human head turned toward Orlin. The Luminan leader's multifaceted eyes were fixed directly on him, their colors pulsing in what seemed like anticipation. They mean you, Kavaris, Commander Vela whispered. Step forward. Orlin moved to the front of the group, conscious of every irregular feature of his face as the aliens regarded him with their shimmering eyes. Little did he know that this moment would forever change his perception of himself and humanity's place in the cosmos. The Luminans surrounded Orlin, their translucent appendages weaving intricate patterns in the air. The lead Luminan, who had introduced itself as Exora, moved closer, its body pulsing with waves of blue and violet light. The prophecy speaks true. Exora's melodic voice chimed through the translator. The divine bearer has come to us. Orlin glanced back at his team, bewilderment evident on his face. Commander Vela gave him a subtle nod, encouraging him to continue the interaction. I'm Dr. Orlin Kavaris, xenobiologist from Earth. he said, careful to maintain eye contact with the alien being. Though with multifaceted eyes, he wasn't sure where exactly to look. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. A ripple of light cascaded through the gathered luminance, a reaction the humans couldn't interpret. You bear the sacred patterns, Ixora continued, reaching an appendage toward Orlan's face but stopping just short of touching his scarred cheek. For generations we have awaited one who carries the marks of transcendence. Commander Vela stepped forward. May I ask what these marks of transcendence are? Ixora's body flickered with yellow pulses. The patterns etched into physical form that represent passage through suffering into enlightenment, the asymmetry that proves adaptation and survival against adversity. The alien's appendage hovered near Orlan's broken nose. Every irregularity tells of victories won against the forces that would destroy. Orlan stood frozen, struggling to process what he was hearing. The very features that had brought him ridicule throughout his life were being described as something sacred. We must bring the divine bearer to the grand illumination, Ixora announced. Only the marked one can activate the ancient knowledge. Lyra stepped forward, diplomatic training asserting itself. Perhaps we should discuss. The unmarked may accompany, but only as witnesses, Ixora interrupted, light patterns shifting to amber tones. The ceremony of recognition must proceed according to the prophecy. Commander Vela nodded to Orlan. Your call, Kavaris. Orlan swallowed hard. Years of scientific training had taught him to approach unknown situations with caution. Yet something about the Luminans' reverence felt genuine. They weren't mocking his appearance, they were genuinely awed by it. I'll go, he decided, but I request that Officer Neves and Commander Vela accompany me. For diplomatic protocols. The journey through the crystalline city was unlike anything Orlan had experienced. Luminans lined the pathways, their bodies pulsing with light in synchronized patterns as Orlan passed. Some prostrated themselves, their forms dimming to almost complete transparency and apparent deference. They're worshipping you, Lyra whispered, her earlier discomfort replaced with professional fascination. Not worship, Ixora corrected, the translator catching the subtle distinction. Recognition. The divine bearer is not a god but a fulfillment, proof that the universe unfolds as foretold. They arrived at a massive dome structure, its crystal walls refracting light into infinite patterns. Inside, a circular platform stood at the center, surrounded by concentric rings of luminance all pulsing in harmonized rhythms. The grand illumination has not been activated for 12 generations, Ixora explained. We believed the time would never come. Orlan stepped onto the platform as directed. The moment his feet touched the surface, the crystal beneath him illuminated, sending beams of light upward that seemed to interact directly with his body. The patterns match, gasped a Luminan elder, its form glowing intensely. The prophecy speaks true. As the light engulfed him, Orlan felt no fear, only a profound sense that perhaps for the first time in his life he was exactly as he was meant to be. The crystal platform beneath Orlan hummed with energy, projecting his silhouette onto the dome's ceiling but transformed. In the projected image, every scar, every asymmetrical feature of his face glowed with distinct colors, forming an intricate pattern that matched symbols etched into the crystal walls of the chamber. The sacred concordance is complete, Ixora announced, its body pulsing with intense light. The divine bearer's patterns unlock the ancestral wisdom. The dome's walls began to shift, panels of crystal rotating and realigning. Orlan remained motionless on the platform, transfixed as holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing star charts, mathematical equations, and biological schematics that even his trained eye couldn't fully comprehend. What is this? Commander Vela asked, her usual composure giving way to awe. Knowledge collected across 50,000 cycles, explained Ixora. Our ancestors foresaw a time when existence itself would face extinction. They encoded their wisdom to be unlocked only by one whose physical form had been shaped by suffering and survival, a living testament to the principle that imperfection is the catalyst for adaptation. Orlan's scientific mind raced to process the implications. You're saying your ancestors predicted someone like me would come? That's statistically impossible. Not prediction, corrected an elder Luminan named Erosa. Recognition of universal patterns. Throughout the cosmos, the same forces shape life. Those who survive adversity carry its marks. Those marks follow mathematical principles your unique features embody perfectly. Lyra approached the edge of the platform, her diplomatic reserve cracking. Are you saying human scars and asymmetrical features follow some kind of cosmic mathematical pattern? Not all, Ixora clarified. But the divine bearer's patterns align precisely with the sacred ratios. The distance between his elevated eye and misaligned nasal bridge, the curve of his facial scarring. They form equations that match our ancestral calculations. Orlan unconsciously touched his scarred cheek. Pure coincidence. The universe contains no coincidences, Erosa chimed, lights pulsing. Only patterns we have not yet recognized. A section of the floor opened, and a crystalline object rose from below, shaped like a double helix but with additional structural elements Orlan didn't recognize. The cipher of existence, Ixora explained. It can only be activated by one bearing the sacred patterns. Commander Vela stepped forward. Before we proceed further, we need to understand what exactly this activation will do. The Luminan's lights darkened momentarily, their equivalent of solemnity. The cipher contains knowledge of cellular reconstruction at the quantum level, the power to heal worlds destroyed by cataclysm, to restore life where it has been extinguished. And you believe, I can activate this? Orlan asked skeptically. We know you can, Ixora replied. The patterns you bear are the key. Orlan looked back at his fellow humans. Commander Vela's expression was calculating, weighing scientific opportunity against potential risk. Lyra's face showed something he'd never seen directed at him before. Respect. If this technology can heal worlds, Orlan said slowly, then we have a responsibility to at least try. He approached the cipher, guided by Ixora's instructions. As he placed his hands on the crystalline structure, the scars on his palms, remnants of a laboratory accident years ago, aligned with indentations on the surface. The cipher illuminated, scanning his features with beams of light that traced every imperfection. The chamber filled with music. At least that's how Orlan's human brain interpreted the harmonic vibrations emanating from the cipher. The crystal structure began to rotate, its components realigning into new configurations. The alignment begins, Ixora announced, its voice carrying both reverence and excitement. The divine bearer awakens the knowledge of the ancestors. As the cipher's components locked into their final position, a holographic display expanded throughout the chamber, showing a three-dimensional model of what appeared to be a galaxy, their galaxy, with certain systems highlighted in pulsing red. What are we seeing? Orlan asked. Ixora's lights dimmed to a somber blue. The coming darkness. The reason the ancestors preserved their knowledge. The reason they waited for one like you. The coming darkness, Orlan repeated, studying the galactic map where entire star systems pulsed with ominous red light. What exactly does that mean? Ixora's appendages created intricate patterns as the holographic display zoomed in on one of the highlighted systems. Stellar deterioration at an accelerated rate. The ancestors discovered a cosmic phenomenon, quantum destabilization that causes stars to collapse prematurely. Commander Vela stepped closer to the display. Are you suggesting these stars will go supernova before their natural time? Worse, Erosa chimed in, the translator rendering the complex harmonics. The destabilization creates a cascade effect. One collapse triggers gravitational anomalies that accelerate deterioration in neighboring systems. Orlan's scientific mind immediately grasped the implications. A chain reaction across the galaxy. Yes, Ixora confirmed. The first system will begin destabilization within 7 of your Earth years. Lyra gasped softly. That's practically tomorrow in cosmic terms. Can it be prevented? Orlan asked, his personal concerns forgotten in the face of potential galactic catastrophe. The luminance pulsed with cautious hope. The ancestral knowledge includes stabilization techniques, technology that can reinforce quantum cohesion at a stellar core level. And you need me, specifically me, to access this knowledge? Orlan still couldn't reconcile their reverence for his scars with the scientific reality before him. The cipher responds only to one who embodies the sacred pattern, Ixora explained. Your unique features, what your kind considers imperfections, form a mathematical key. The exact proportions of asymmetry required to unlock the full spectrum of ancestral wisdom. Orlan shook his head in disbelief. Out of billions of humans, the mathematical odds that my specific facial features would match your ancestral calculations are precisely why you are the divine bearer, interjected an elder Luminan. The universe arranged your creation according to its needs. Commander Vela's pragmatic voice cut through the mysticism. Regardless of cosmic destiny or mathematical coincidence, we have a potential catastrophe to address. How do we proceed? The cipher pulsed with new light as if responding to the question, its crystalline components reconfigured, projecting technical schematics into the air. Designs for devices unlike anything human engineering had conceived. The quantum anchors, Ixora explained. Devices that can be positioned within failing star systems to reinforce stellar cohesion at the subatomic level. Orlan studied the schematics, his xenobiologist training allowing him to recognize biological components integrated into the mechanical designs. These require organic elements. Yes, Erosa confirmed. The anchors must contain living cellular material from the divine bearer. A hush fell over the human delegation. Lyra broke the silence. You need parts of Orlan's body? Merely cellular? Samples, Ixora clarified. The pattern of his genetic code, shaped by the same mathematical principles as his external features, completes the quantum anchors. Orlan felt a strange calm settle over him. After a lifetime of being judged for his appearance, the idea that his unique features might help save billions of lives seemed like cosmic irony. I'll provide whatever samples you need, he said firmly. Orlan, Commander Vela cautioned, we need to fully understand what we're agreeing to here. With respect, Commander, I don't think we have the luxury of hesitation. If their predictions are accurate, we're facing extinction-level events across multiple star systems, possibly including our own. The cipher shifted again, revealing more technical details. Orlan approached it, placing his scarred hands on its surface. The connection felt electric, as if information was flowing directly into his mind. I can see it, he whispered. The quantum mechanics, the stabilization process, it's like the knowledge is arranging itself in a way my brain can comprehend. The luminance pulsed with excitement. The divine bearer receives the ancestral wisdom, Ixora announced. The transference has begun. As complex equations and technical specifications flowed into his consciousness, Orlan realized the profound truth behind the luminance reverence. His scars and asymmetrical features weren't random imperfections. They were physical manifestations of the principles of adaptation and survival, principles that now might save countless civilizations across the galaxy. For the first time in his life, Orlan Kavaris felt no shame about his appearance. Instead, he felt something entirely new: purpose. Over the following weeks, Orlan divided his time between the Lumina Prime surface and the horizon in orbit above. His quarters aboard the ship had been converted into a specialized laboratory, where he worked alongside both human and Luminan scientists to decode the vast knowledge transferred to him through the cipher. The cellular integration is progressing well, announced Mei Chu, the ship's biomechanical engineer, as she examined the prototype quantum anchor under a molecular scanner. Your genetic material is bonding with the crystalline matrix exactly as the schematics predicted, Orlan nodded, studying the holographic display of the device's internal structure. What had once seemed like alien gibberish now made perfect sense to him. The knowledge from the cipher had fundamentally altered how his brain processed certain types of information. The first deployment team leaves for the Arcturus system in 3 days, Commander Vela reminded him as she entered the lab. Will the prototype be ready? It will, Orlin confirmed, though fatigue lined his features. The cellular harvesting process, while painless thanks to Luminen medical technology, had taken its toll. You should rest, Vela said, her usual brusque manner softening slightly. You're no good to the mission exhausted. I'm fine, Orlin insisted, turning back to his work. After Vela left, Lyra entered carrying data tablets. The communications officer had been assigned as liaison between the human and Luminen scientific teams. Over the past weeks, her initial discomfort around Orlin had transformed into something approaching admiration. The Luminen High Council requests your presence for tonight's ceremony, she informed him. Apparently, they want to formally recognize your contribution before the deployment begins. Orlin sighed. More ritualistic reverence? They're trying to honor you, Lyra pointed out. Most humans would enjoy being treated as divine. I'm not divine, Orlin said firmly. I'm just mathematically convenient. Lyra's expression softened. You know, before all this, I never really looked at you. Really looked. Not many people do, Orlin replied matter-of-factly. It's human nature to avoid what we perceive as imperfect. The Luminans see it differently, she observed. Every one of your scars tells a story of survival. Your broken nose, the chemical burn, they're not flaws but testaments to your resilience. Orlin's hand stilled over the prototype. Now you sound like Exora. Maybe the Luminans understand something about beauty that we've forgotten, Lyra suggested. Later that evening, in the Grand Crystal Hall, Orlin stood before the assembled Luminen Council. Their bodies pulsed with ceremonial light patterns as Exora presented him with what appeared to be a living ornament. A small crystalline structure that shifted and adapted its form continuously. The emblem of transcendence, Exora announced. It adapts eternally, finding strength in change just as the divine bearer has done. As the emblem was placed around his neck, Orlin felt its crystalline surface warm against his skin, seeming to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. The quantum anchors represent hope for countless civilizations, Exora continued. Because of your sacrifice, the coming darkness may be averted. After the ceremony, Orlin found himself on a balcony overlooking the luminescent plains of the alien world. The twin moons cast prismatic light through the planet's crystalline formations, creating ephemeral rainbows that danced across the landscape. Lyra joined him, her diplomatic uniform exchanged for more casual attire. Beautiful, isn't it? Yes, Orlin agreed. Though I'm told humans can only perceive about 30% of the light spectrum the Luminans see. To them, this view contains colors we can't even imagine. Different perspectives, Lyra mused. Just like beauty. Orlin touched the emblem at his throat. I spent my entire life believing I was defined by what I lacked. Symmetry, conventional attractiveness. I never considered that my scars might follow a pattern of their own. A divine pattern, according to the Luminans, Lyra said. Orlin shook his head, smiling slightly. Not divine, just unique. Like every scar on every being who's ever survived. Something that should have destroyed them. As they stood in comfortable silence, news arrived via their communication devices. The first quantum anchor had been successfully assembled. Deployment would begin as scheduled. For the first time since landing on Lumina Prime, Orlin felt a sense of peace. Whatever cosmic coincidence had brought him here, mathematical alignment or mere chance, he was grateful for the opportunity to transform what he had always seen as his greatest weakness into humanity's greatest hope. 3 years later, Orlin stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Earth vessel Transcendence, watching as the ship approached the Procyon binary star system. On the view screen, the larger of the two stars pulsed with ominous flares, early signs of the quantum destabilization predicted by the Luminan ancestral knowledge. Quantum Anchor Deployment Team report to Shuttle Bay, announced Captain Lyra, Neves from the command chair. Following the successful Arcturus mission, she had been promoted to captain the first specialized anchor deployment vessel. Orlin nodded to her as he gathered his equipment. Their relationship had evolved over the years from awkward collegiality to deep friendship and Recently something more. The mission to save the galaxy's star systems had transformed them both. Nervous? She asked, joining him at the viewport. Always, he admitted. 17 successful deployments, and I still hold my breath until the stabilization matrix activates. She touched the emblem of transcendence that still hung around his neck. 18 will be no different. As Orlan prepared to board the deployment shuttle, he caught his reflection in a polished bulkhead. His face remained as asymmetrical as ever. The elevated eye, the crooked nose, the scarred cheek. But he no longer saw ugliness there. Instead, he recognized the mathematical precision the Luminans had identified, the sacred pattern that had unlocked the knowledge to save civilizations. The deployment proceeded as planned. The quantum anchor, containing cellular material cultivated from Orlan's original genetic samples, was positioned within Procyon's corona. As the activation sequence initiated, Orlan monitored the quantum readings from the shuttle's science station. Stabilization matrix online, he reported as the star's erratic energy fluctuations began to normalize. Anchor is functioning at optimal parameters. Cheers erupted throughout the shuttle and across the communication channel to the Transcendence. Another star system saved from premature collapse. Upon returning to Earth 6 months later, Orlan found himself addressing the United Stellar Alliance General Assembly, representatives from 27 worlds that had joined together following first contact with the Luminans. The coming darkness represents our greatest challenge as a galactic community, he told the assembled delegates. But it has also become our greatest opportunity for unity. His gaze swept across the chamber, taking in the diverse representatives, humans, alongside Luminans, and delegates from a dozen other species whose worlds had been or would be saved by the quantum anchors. 3 years ago, I believed I was defined by what others saw as flaws, he continued. The Luminans taught me that imperfection isn't weakness. It's the universe's way of creating uniqueness and resilience. Every civilization represented here today has faced its own challenges, carries its own scars. Those differences aren't dividing us. They're becoming our collective strength. After the assembly, Orlan returned to the diplomatic quarters he shared with Lyra when on Earth. She was waiting, dressed in formal uniform for the evening's celebration. The delegates from Proxima Centauri arrived, she informed him. Their world would have been the first destroyed if not for the anchors. They're insisting on honoring you personally. Orlan smiled. More ceremonial reverence? It's not just ceremony to them, Lyra reminded him. You gave them a future. Later, at the reception, Orlan found himself approached by a young human boy, no more than 12 years old. The child's face bore severe burn scars across one side, his left eye clouded with injury. Dr. Kavaris, the boy said hesitantly. My name is Ellis. I wanted to thank you. Orlan knelt to the child's level. For what, Ellis? Before you, everyone told me my face would hold me back, that I should get reconstructive surgery to look normal. The boy's undamaged eye shone with determination. But now they say I might have the sacred pattern too, that I might be special. Orlan felt his throat tighten with emotion. You are special, Ellis. Not because of the pattern, but because you survived. Every scar tells a story of something that tried to destroy you but failed. Do you think I could work on the quantum anchors someday? The boy asked hopefully. I think you can do anything you set your mind to, Orlan told him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. The universe has plans for people like us. As the reception continued around them, Orlan gazed out at the gathering of species from across the galaxy, all working together to face the coming darkness. The Luminans had been right. What humans had dismissed as ugliness had turned out to be divine in its mathematical precision, a key to survival encoded in the very fabric of existence. His hand rose unconsciously to trace the familiar ridges of his scarred cheek, a gesture that had once signified shame, but now carried pride. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, had crafted him exactly as he needed to be, not ugly, not flawed, perfect in his imperfection, divine in his humanity. And as the representatives of countless worlds raised their glasses in tribute to the scarred human who had given them hope, Orlen Kavaris finally understood the profound truth. The universe doesn't make mistakes. It makes miracles.